Saving a woman from a burning building is the classic feat of bravery and strength. Add in the fact that she's blind, and you've got the tale of a true hero. Now add in the fact that the savior is also blind, and you've got an epic. Jim Sherman was born blind, and in Texas in 2006, his neighbor's house would catch on fire. Jim could hear the screaming from his trailer, and then followed the fence toward the neighbor's home. His neighbor, Annie Smith, she was also legally blind, and she was absolutely terrified. So Sherman did what any sightless hero would do. He found his way into the burning home and dragged her out of the flames. This is probably the most inspiring use of the parable, the blind leading the blind, and truly a man with exemplary strength of character. Joe Rollino. Living to 104, well, that's an amazing achievement. And spending your life as a champion strongman is a great way to do it. Joe Rollino only weighed 150 pounds in his prime, but could lift 635 pounds with just his fingers, and a staggering 3,200 pounds on his back. Being dubbed the strongest man in the world, well, that wasn't just enough for Rollino. He had to go and win 3 Purple Hearts, along with a Silver Star in the line of duty. In World War II, Rollino was commended for bravery and putting his amazing strength to good use when he pulled his wounded fellows from the battlefield, 4 at a time. He reportedly carried 2 injured men under each arm before returning to fetch more from the line of fire. Though he received many injuries, he's remembered for his life-saving feats of strength that made him a war hero. The alligator. Unconditional love can make a man do a lot of wonderful and dangerous things. And in the Florida bayou, Joseph Welch, well, he saved his son from an alligator attack. When the beast closed its jaws on the 6-year-old's arm, Welch thought nothing of his own safety and punched the alligator in the face until it released his child. Elsewhere in Zimbabwe, a similar story brings a father and son together, as a man had to save his son from a crocodile by sticking reeds into its eyeballs. The crocodile let go, but clamped himself onto the man and would not release him until he was able to gouge out both of its eyes with his thumbs. Though his son lost his legs in the struggle, he survived due to his father's bravery. Cars. If you think that only men are capable of performing magnificent feats of strength, well, think again. In Virginia, 22-year-old Lauren Kornacki reacted quickly and unexpectedly when her father got crushed by a car. Mr. Kornacki was working under the hood of his BMW when the jack would slip, causing the 52-year-old man to be stuck and broken beneath the car. Lauren yelled for her mother to call 911, but was possessed with superhuman strength, actually lifting the vehicle enough to pull her father out from beneath it. In actuality, she shoved the car off and away from her father, an almost impossible feat for her at the time. Oh, and it doesn't end there. Her father wasn't breathing and his heart had stopped, so Lauren stepped up and administered expert CPR. She was able to save her father as the paramedics arrived on the scene. Lauren's father survived the incident and has recovered in full, thanks entirely to her bravery and strength. A similar incident happened in Georgia when a 3,000-pound Chevy Impala fell off of its blocks and onto Angela Cavallo's son. Well, it seemed like Angela wasn't going to let the Grim Reaper take her boy, so she lifted the car for a full 5 minutes, allowing neighbors to drag her son to safety. These surges of extreme power defy logic, but so does love. The Aquaman. In an accident in 1976, a bus would drive into an Armenian reservoir of freezing water and began sinking fast. Fortunately for the passengers, a champion swimmer was nearby and was finishing up a 20-mile run when he heard the splash. Without pausing for a breath, he dove into the freezing water to try and save the 92 passengers on board. The bus had sunk 30 feet below the surface when the man kicked in the back window and began pulling out survivors from the wreckage. Apparently, it only took him about 30 seconds to save each person, and he would save 20 people before passing out in the icy water from exhaustion. 8 years later, he ran into a house fire, saving several people while suffering severe burns. He would be awarded the Badge of Honor from the USSR, alongside other medals. New Zealand. Heroes also sometimes put their lives on the line when another hangs in the balance, and this next story is a literal example. When 18-year-old Peter Hahn heard the midnight crash from his New Zealand home, he acted immediately. Running out of his house, Hahn saw a semi-truck poised over the edge of a cliff. Without stopping to think of the risk, Hahn vaulted onto the back of the truck and squeezed himself between the cab and the trailer. He then smashed out the rear window and dragged the injured driver to safety, all while the truck teetered on the edge of oblivion. For his action movie-style heroics, Peter Hahn was awarded the New Zealand Bravery Medal in 2011. Robert Ingram. Bravery and strength can contribute to a person's heroism, but sometimes these are showcased in completely superhuman ways. Robert Ingram was in C Company, nicknamed Suicide Charlie, in the Vietnam War. The name came from the fact that this company was always in the middle of things, and on one special day, Ingram would make history. During a routine attack, C Company stumbled into a 100-man ambush. A soldier in the front of Ingram was shot dead, and as he bent over the body, Ingram would be shot in the hand. Ingram wasn't having any of it though, and fired on his enemy only to find that behind him, the platoon leader was down as well. Ingram then went to assist and was shot in the knee. As he tried to treat the fallen soldier, a Viet Cong then shot him at close range, through the face. If you're counting, that's a hand, a knee, and the face. Ingram then became partly paralyzed, but seeing that his fallen comrade was still alive, he pulled the soldier back while firing on the enemy, and suffering 3 bullet wounds in the process. Ingram would drag himself all the way back to the command post before collapsing in a heap, and was recognized for his bravery with the Medal of Honor, recommended for him by the platoon leader that he saved. Duty to one's country and comrades can inspire astounding strength and endurance in a man against all odds. Great Antonio. When posed with the question, "Why climb Everest?" George Mallory famously replied, "Because it's there." This seemed to be a good enough reason for strongman the Great Antonio when he stole a bus. Antonio was 6'4", weighing 500 pounds, and when he wanted to move a Montreal bus because he felt like it, the driver didn't really have much to say. Despite the fact that the bus had passengers on it, no one really raised much of a fuss when Antonio attached a rope to the front and simply pulled it away. This 1950s exploit had the police baffled. It's not that it's hard to find a giant pulling a piece of the metro system down the street, but it's awfully difficult to arrest him for it. Antonio also pulled trains, cars, and horses, and is in the Guinness Book of World Records for his bizarre and burly escapades. Signor Lawanda. When people talk about a firm, chiseled jaw, they rarely mean anything beyond the appearance of the features. This was not true, however, for strongman Signor Lawanda, whose special powers lingered in that muscular face. In the early 1900s, Lawanda was famous for being able to lift many things using a special harness that focused the power of his jaw muscles. One such hoist was a 1,400-pound horse. The strength it would take to do this is borderline unimaginable. But just try to picture biting $1 in half without breaking your teeth. Now imagine the pressure on your jaw of having an entire 1.5 tons of horse weighing in. Needless to say, Lawanda stands alone in his specific and amazing feats of strength. Dean Carnazze. The ability to train for a run of a marathon is an amazing mixture of skill and dedication. But what about 50 marathons? Dean Carnazze, a Los Angeles runner, stunned the world with his 50 marathons in 50 days, consecutively. Beginning in St. Louis on September 17th and finishing in New York City on November 5th, Dean set an amazing American record for consecutive marathons. And he's also good under difficult conditions. Carnazze ran 135 miles straight across Death Valley, where temperatures went as high as 120 degrees Fahrenheit. To prove his versatility, he's also one of the few in the world to have run a marathon in the South Pole at -40 degrees. Dean is a monument to endurance, and his willpower is second to none. Angus MacAskill. These amazing stunts and heroic actions are certainly deeds of merit, but sometimes a man is pushed beyond the limits of his peers into almost mythical status. Angus MacAskill was a Scottish-Canadian born in 1825 and was reported to be the strongest man to ever walk the planet. MacAskill was the tallest non-pathological giant ever, meaning that his strong body was proportional to his enormous size. Standing in at 7'9", weighing 430 pounds, Angus performed feats of strength that no man has ever been able to consider. He lifted a ship's anchor that weighed 2,800 pounds and brought it to the end of the dock. He tipped his own 2,000-pound boat in order to drain it of bilge water. From lifting horses over fences to using 2 fingers to hoist 100 pounds, his startling strength would earn him the attention of the Queen of England. Queen Victoria had him to dinner and proclaimed him the tallest, stoutest, and strongest man to ever enter the palace. Angus would die of brain fever in 1863, but his legacy lives on.